what is going on, guys? Frankie Trades here, bringing you another new weekly stock watch list. Before we get started, though, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. And without much more being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video. So, as far as earnings go for this week, there is not too much going on. It's pretty dry. Really, the only company left that has to report earnings is NVIDIA, and that's the only one that's a little far away, so I don't have to worry about it for the current meantime. Do have a setup on that one, though, for this week's watch list, so be ready for that one. But as far as any stocks go for this week, don't have anything besides Target. Target typically has some sort of good post-earnings play every now and then, so maybe I'll look at that on Wednesday morning after reports on that day. But we'll just have to keep an eye out and see. As far as everything else goes, I don't typically look at anymore. Walmart, ZM, Home Depot. A lot of these stocks I stopped looking at. Baidu's another one I stopped looking at as well. So a lot of these companies I don't look at post-earning plays anymore, just because there really isn't anything consistent on them as much as it was back in the day. Nowadays there just isn't much on them. So, but if I see something on Twitter that piques my interest and maybe it pops off, maybe I'll take a look at it. But really, the only stock that I'm looking at is Target for any post-earnings play. So, as far as the watch list goes, you guys see my NVIDIA chart here, but we'll talk about that here shortly. We always like to talk about our indexes first, because this is going to give us a rough idea where the market is currently sitting at and where we could potentially head. So, as far as NQ goes, if we go to the 4-hour here, not the 1 hour, the areas that I'm looking at for the current moment are anything above 24,000 as a possible resistance, 23,800 for the first support, and then the next support I'll be looking at is 23,600. Now, why these levels? Well, at the beginning of this week, we created a base or support at 23,600. Couldn't close below there from Monday to Tuesday. We jumped up, broke the all-time high that we had held previously at 23,800, broke by 200 to 300 points roughly. We tested it, couldn't close above 24,000. We came back down and actually tested 23,800 on Thursday and Friday, and we couldn't get a strong close below there. So that's why I'm looking at this 800 mark for a first support, and then the second support I'd be looking at 23,600, because again, that was the base we created at the beginning of the week. So as far as support and resistance goes, resistance I'm looking at 24,000, anything above there. And then as far as support goes, anything below 23,800, and then 23,600 on NQ. ES has something similar as well. If I go to the 4-hour here, only on ES, we actually created more of a base throughout the entire week instead of NQ creating two supports. So with ES, pretty straightforward. Everything's here is on the 4-hour. I'm looking at anything below 64.60 as the first support on ES. Well, actually the only support on ES, and then for the upside, I'm looking at anything above 6,500 for a resistance or some sort of close above that, going into the all-time high at 6,508. Now, obviously, we're kind of stuck between both areas. It's a 40-point range on a week basis, so anything can happen here, especially with it being the weekend. Anything can gap up, anything can gap down. Any kind of news can trigger the market in any kind of way going into Monday morning. So for the meantime, I'm just keeping it simple. You guys know I like to keep things simple on my watch list. So anything above 6,500 or below 64.60 on ES for me for the range that I'm looking at. Now, as far as the watch list goes, before we get to NVIDIA, which I'm sure everyone's waiting on because that's everyone's favorite stock recently, I'm going to be going over AMD MSTR. So first things first on AMD, I am interested at this 187 level. Now, if I put this on the 3-year 1 day, I had plotted 187.50 a long time ago. So this was actually back in March 21st of 2024 that I had plotted this resistance. And we could see that it has proved to be important 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now at this 187.50 mark, around this 187.50, 187 area. It has proved to be important 5 times now, rejecting off of this resistance. So it is a little far away, $10 away, but because of how important and how big this setup could be, especially, with the whole AI and chip, bubble right now, this could be something insanely big for AMD. So for AMD, pretty straightforward setup. I'm looking at anything above potentially 187, 187.50 if you really want to play it safe. But me personally, I would probably be looking for some sort of entry between the 65-cent mark to 70 cents going into the 187 level with a target of 188. I can't see myself holding past that because that's not typically my trading style. But of course, anything can change, right? I can change my plan as the trade happens, especially as a scalper. I can really be flexible with how my trade is working out, how much I'm up, how much I'm down, whatever the case is, right? for the meantime, keep things pretty simple. It's $10 away, so it's not the biggest rush on our watch list, but it is a really solid setup that I wanted to mention as part of the main watch list because it is looking dry across the market overall. So this is one of those setups where I could provide to you guys just to have as a future setup, even if it doesn't happen this week. So 187 would be a nice level to look at for AMD. Now MSTR is a strange one because it's a crypto one, but I do believe this one does have potential. It is pretty close, $6 away from where we closed at. But I'm looking at this 360 level on MSTR. Now, the issue with this is that it is in a major trade. Congested is the right term for it. A lot of shares are just traded within this area, which could cause the play to be choppy. That's the only sketchy part. MSTR trading it at this 360 mark is that it's pretty congested. If I put volume profile on this, you guys can see what I am talking about. And you can see how heavily congested it is within this area, right? So, not something that I would be too interested on because it is MSTR and it's a really risky stock to trade due to how wide the spreads can be. And for a lot of newer traders, it can be really risky because you guys don't know how to use risk management really well on these kinds of stocks and plays. But for me personally, this is a this is an A+ setup to me essentially. So this is something that I could see myself risking money on because of these are typically the setups that I perform really well on. So going with MSTR, I'm looking at 360. If you really want to play it safe, you could take a close look at 358.50 as a potential entry, or even 359 because that would be breaking the demand zone around here at 360. Demand zone, support area, both the same thing. Demand zone is just talking about a zone. Support is just talking about a specific point. But the area that you want to be careful with is 360. But if you want to play safe, you could wait for 359. So pretty straightforward setup. My target would be around 355 to 350 on this, depending on how we break out, if it gets bought up or not. Those are the things you need to account for, especially with a area like this as important on MSTR. So next up, and last but not least on my watch list, is NVIDIA. Now NVIDIA, this is another pretty straightforward setup. The only unfortunate part is it is far away. It's $5 to $4 away, depending on where you want to trade it at. For me, currently, I'm interested on trading this at 184. If I put, on the 1 hour to the 4 hour, you can see why I'm looking at this at 184. It's because we have a flat top across that area. The only time we broke it was during post-market hours. So I'm not really concerned about that, but 184 is looking really nice. After 184, I'd be looking at 185. I think I included this on last week's watch list. Obviously didn't break out this week. It got close, but it wasn't the right day. It's the right setup, but it wasn't the right day for NVIDIA to break out. It was just really weak compared to how strong the market was. So I just knew not to trade it that day for that reason. But again, this is $4 to $5 away, depending on where you want to trade it at. The downside, we did end up breaking on Friday. I was going to mention 179, but we did break that as well because this was the bottom of the range we wicked. So it could still be important. But for the meantime, the actual A+ setup to me at least is at 184/185. So, but yeah, that is about it for the watch list though, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Before you go though, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so I keep doing these videos for you guys. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your weekend and have a fantastic week. Peace out.